Hi, Darby. How are you? Welcome back.
Good, good. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, I wanted to ask, when there's so many incredible things that you guys did that, I don't think most people know, and hopefully when they read the book, they'll find out. What were some things that happened along the way in the journey, whether you were involved or not, but that just kind of, now you look back and they're kind of mind blowing or just, wow, that was really, that was really a tipping point or something.
Sure. I think some of the things that were biggest to me were just, when we talked previously, talked about how I have kind of a more pragmatic or less optimistic view than some, and the times were just unexpected uh, incidents of support were always what struck me in doing the Save the Crew jersey. I love the idea of a sponsor, but I was like, gosh, I don't know if we're ever going to get like any names in Columbus to sign on for this for,
Yeah.
any kind of money, right? Like we have this great movement, but are they willing to put their money where their mouths are? And
Mhm.
then being able to get those names associated with the jerseys, that was really neat because it was a way, it validated, like we knew what we were doing was important, but then members of
Mhm.
the business community also felt that way enough to get behind us on that.
Mhm.
um, Another example is Metcalf Printing, just offering up those Save the Crew signs that we got to use in the playoff game.
Mhm.
um, Looking out across the stadium and seeing all of those was, that was a fantastic view. The bright yellow of our team, let's be honest, is a huge
Yeah.
visual catch. So when you see a stadium full of people waving these signs, like
It's actually
that's
one of my
yes,
favorite one of my favorite photos, right there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That would, in a moment where just everybody's holding them up and you just see this ocean of yellow. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, like the Will Trap goal, a lot of people, uh, it kind of resonates. It felt like there was a metaphor there. Him taking that shot from out of nowhere and gaining, drawing back, clawing back a result from something that we kind of thought was a foregone conclusion. Um, it's just sometimes that's one of those things that if they ever made a movie, somebody would be like, listen, that's too on the nose to actually be real, right? Like that's not the way this
Yeah.
movie
It
actually
was
ends.
I was one of my sessions with Nate Beckman was I went to his home and he talked about that and he actually found the video of it and pulled it up on his big monitor and he had tears in his eyes.
Mm.
Just like that was like this serendipitous moment. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it
and
stuck with so many of us. Like
yeah.
that just, it was the perfect representation.
Another one you talk about the community stepping up was what Dr. Khan did with regard to his contributions, which allowed you to run, full page ads and Almost Dispatch and Business First, and just remarkable. And he did it only because he wanted to do what was right, which was the
Yeah.
really the drive behind all of this. It's like to right a wrong, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and Dr. Khan is probably one of those unspoken heroes. I don't think he didn't get enough public attention. I don't think he necessarily wanted it. But those newspaper ads were so great, and it freed
Yeah.
us up to be able to message in a way that would have been a lot more challenging otherwise. And in
Yeah.
fact, when he was, helping us put those things together, like he barely wanted any credit at all. I think we sort of had to push him, like, listen, no, seriously, we want to include your name in here. And I think he sort of put it under the guise of like supported by Dr. Khan and his family. Like
Yeah.
he, even then, he sort of wanted to diffuse the credit.
Mhm.
But he was definitely an unsung hero in terms of some of the more creative messaging that we could put out.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your what's the one moment that just stands out as your favorite moment?
Oh my gosh, a year's worth of history and effort encapsulated by a single moment. I, I think probably it October 12th even was a little too soon. But I think probably that first game after the announcement, like once the reality of the unofficial official things are happening, getting to watch a game and just realizing, oh, we're going to get to keep doing
Oh,
this.
no.
This is we're going to have a normal going forward. Up before that time, every game we saw, there's a potential countdown in the back of your head, right? Like even if you think things are going well, still there's 10 more games, there's five
There's,
more games, who
there's a
knows.
sadness because your girlfriend is still threatening to walk out on you. You're still not quite sure, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that first game we got to attend after the announcement, where it
Wow.
was like, oh, it finally feels safer now. It feels like
That's,
this is our home and it's gonna stay our home.
yeah, very cool. Tell us, talk about October 12th. How'd that day unfold for you?
Oh gosh,
And
I mean, it unfolded with a lot of drinking, but it started on a much sober basis. Yeah, I was in the drive through at Tim Hortons. It was one of those kind of, people of my parents' generation have the where were you when JFK was assassinated. Now, I'm not trying to, say that what we did is
oh,
anywhere near on that level.
sure.
Um, but it's a momentous occasion in our collective lives, and one of those where like, yep, I can tell you exactly. I was in the drive-through. I had already given my order. Um, every payday at work, I buy Timbits for the office, just as kind of like, hey, it's a nice thing. We survived another 2 weeks. Um, and because I had my car in park, I felt safe in looking at the Slack, and I saw the post that said, we've done it. Um, and I'm sitting there in the parking lot or in the drive-through. I think I was one car back from the window and trying not to cry because I have to go give this person my money and take my donuts, and I don't want to look like the emotionally damaged, perhaps deranged person in their drive-through.
Yeah.
So like I, finished my transaction and drove home and walked in, and Kristen actually was working from home that day. I was going to be going into the office later. And I just brought everything in and I said, we did it. We saved the team. And just, excuse me while I get a little, it's funny. I can still get misty thinking and
Yeah,
talking about it now.
you're not the only one.
Um,
Many of you guys do. Yeah.
yeah. And then just, hugging and laughing and crying and sharing that feeling of utter joy and also relief, because everybody who'd been working on this had been working
Hmm.
basically nonstop for a year, and it wears on you. It takes an emotional toll on you. So it was such a weight lifted off of our shoulders that morning.
Sharing
And
it with
then
Kristen, your partner, and so she was with you the whole way and watched
exactly.
your effort and knew the emotional entanglement, and so she was celebrating that with her was probably important, probably
Yeah,
special.
exactly. All of us had people in our lives who were supporting us. They weren't in the leadership meetings, but they were absolutely the ones making it possible for us to do what we did. I
Mhm.
don't think any of us would have made it through this process without our people behind us. Um, but yeah, so we celebrated, and then I had to go to work because I was like, well, I mean, we know, but we're not sure what's next, and I still have stuff to do. So I had to go to the office for a couple of hours and try and focus, which was, in retrospect, a pretty foolhardy idea because I don't think I did anything worthwhile. And after a couple of hours, I went to my boss and I said, "Listen, there's some kind of big crew things happening today, so I'm gonna take the rest of the day off." And yeah, went back home and got Kristen, and I think around noonish we headed over to Endeavor, uh, and just walked in the door and instantly started hugging people. And I think that was probably half of that day, was each time somebody new came in, going through this cycle of like seeing them and your eyes lighting up and hugging them and saying we did it, and laughing and drinking, and like making sure that nobody ever had an empty glass. That day is like the hours that went by are kind of a blur for me. I'm not actually sure how I managed to spend that many hours at Endeavor.
How many hours? We got
I
there
mean,
at noon. When
got
did you?
there and I think we left around 8. I think that was when I had hit my capacity for alcohol. Also, most of us probably should have eaten more that day than we actually did, because there was a lot of booze and not nearly enough to soak
Yeah.
it up. But yeah, I think it was just, constantly making the rounds. I was inside, I was outside, I was in the back room. And I know we were all waiting for the official MLS announcement. That was, if you're waiting, if you're looking for some sort of, okay, this is real, having the league say it definitely validates and kind of gives you that final, okay, now we can exhale. And it kept getting pushed back.
Yeah.
Uh,
Maybe what,
if I were
4:30, 5, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much near the end of the business day, but I think early on we were hearing, oh, it's going to be like 1:30, and then it was 2, and then it was 3, and then it was 3:30. Um, but for me personally, I never had any doubt that it was coming. It was just them trying to figure out how to spin things in the way that looked best for them, which, fine, whatever at that point, as long as you give us the end result that we're looking for. If you want to spin doctor this a little bit to make yourselves look a little better, okay, whatever.
Yeah. So October 12th is now forever memorialized as Save the Crew Day in Columbus. I
It
would
is.
imagine that for the rest of your life, that day will be looked upon as you'll reflect back and you'll get emotional and you'll tap into some of these feelings.
Absolutely. And I fully intend to be at Endeavor on every October 12th. That place is very tied to our movement, being the host for so many things. And also just a sort of emotional mecca, apart from any of the hosted events. We watched so many games there, and had so many great moments there. So I'll definitely always have that connection. They're not allowed to go out of business. That's basically
Won't
it,
let that
because
happen.
they have to stay there. And
You'll start a save the Endeavor if you need to.
that's right. I mean, we have all the tools now. We know what it takes to make these things happen.
Well, not only, I mean, is it uh, such a special place because you've seen so many crew games there, and that's where you go for watch parties, and of course that's where you want to celebrate. But you spend every Monday evening there for almost an entire year with your leadership team.
Yeah, and sometimes Wednesdays or other day of the weeks when we
Yeah.
had additional meetings. Yes, and they were like their staff and the ownership were just incredibly supportive during it. And not even just in that we agree with what you're doing. I mean, they helped make things happen. They actively worked to make life easier for us. They,
Yeah.
you know, they helped financially, and
Mhm.
they were absolutely a part of that process. And so, like I said, for me, they're forever tied together.
Yeah, I mean, it's so wonderful that you had an establishment like that that happened to serve alcohol.
For
And
sure.
the,
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could have
kind of sought that
celebrated
out.
at a McDonald's or something, but it wouldn't
Yeah.
have had the same feel for
Yeah, I
sure.
think trying to find that special place, I'm sure alcohol was one of the prerequisites.
I mean, it's if you're
Um,
going to have to spend 2 and 3 hours in a meeting hashing out attack plans, it definitely helps to
yeah,
have a drink at your
yeah,
side.
yeah. All right, Darby. Thanks for all those reflections. That's good stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Talk to you soon. See you.
See ya.